What if, as you close your eyes tonight, you could imagine the vastness of space whispering back to you? Imagine a stranger from the stars gliding silently into our solar system, not with thunder or fire, but with a quiet brilliance that carries both mystery and calm. This is the story of 3I Atlas, the third known interstellar visitor drifting across the cosmic sea like an ancient message in a bottle. It does not roar or threaten. It drifts shimmering faintly, as if reminding us that the universe is endlessly larger than our fears and far gentler than we sometimes believe. Hey guys, tonight we are going to sink slowly into the tale of this cosmic traveler. Together, we will drift through its discovery, its strangeness, and the gentle echoes of speculation it leaves in our minds. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you'd like, post your location and the local time down in the comments, so we can see where everyone is joining from across this spinning world. Now, if you're ready, let's begin. It all started with a flicker of light, a speck so faint that only careful, patient instruments could see it. On the 1st of July 2025, astronomers in Chile, using the Atlas telescope, noticed something unusual moving against the velvet curtain of the night sky. At first, it was only a point of light easily lost among the countless stars. But its movement told a different story. It was not bound by the familiar curves of an orbit around the Sunday. Instead, it carved a path that was hyperbolic, an open-ended trajectory, a kind of celestial escape route. Objects that follow hyperbolas do not stay. They are visitors, not residents. They come from the deep dark between the stars, and they leave often without a trace. This one was soon given a name, 3I Atlas. The 3I stands for Third Interstellar, following in the footsteps of Oumuamua in 2017 and 2I Borisov in 2019. But unlike those earlier wanderers, this visitor seemed to carry an aura of something more. It was faster, stranger, more chemically unusual, as if time itself had etched secrets into its icy skin. Astronomers could measure its speed over 13,000,000 miles per hour, a pace so staggering that it could cross the entire United States in under 3 minutes. And yet, despite its swiftness, it seemed to move with grace like a dancer in slow motion across the cosmic ballroom. But why does it matter? Why does a tiny fragment of ice and dust, no larger than a small mountain, deserve our attention? Perhaps because it is a messenger, not of catastrophe, not of danger, but of perspective. Think of it as a stranger who enters a crowded room silent and everyone turns to notice. The stranger does not speak, does not threaten, but their very presence shifts the atmosphere. 3I Atlas is like that, a quiet guest who reminds us of the grand stage we inhabit. Scientists, cautious and methodical, quickly reassured the public that this comet posed no threat. At its closest in December of 2025, it would pass 270 million kilometers away, nearly twice the distance between Earth and Mars at their closest. That's not a cosmic bullet heading for our home. That is a safe, distant brush, a silent wave from across the void. And yet, even within that reassurance, questions began to ripple. If this was the third interstellar visitor in less than a decade, how many more must there be? How many unseen wanderers cross through our solar system, unobserved every year, every century, every eon? The thought is both unsettling, soothing. Unsettling because it reminds us that the universe is filled with mysteries far beyond our control. Soothing because it also tells us we are not as alone as we sometimes feel. The galaxy is not empty. It is alive with fragments of worlds long gone survivors, of stellar births and deaths, carrying the dust of places we will never see. 3I Atlas is not here to harm us. It is here to remind us that the cosmos is a shared space, a vast ocean where countless travelers drift most unnoticed, some briefly visible before vanishing again. The chemistry of this visitor only deepens its allure. Observations from the James Webb Space Telescope revealed a coma, an atmosphere of gas around its icy heart, dominated by carbon dioxide far more than water vapor. This was unusual, almost shocking compared to ordinary comets. In a way, it was like meeting a stranger whose voice carries an unfamiliar accent. The words are recognizable, but the tone and cadence reveal a different land, a different history. Scientists puzzled over what this imbalance meant. Was it formed around a star with different chemical balances than our own sun? Was it ancient, scarred by cosmic rays during billions of years in the interstellar dark? Or was it simply one more reminder that our neat models of planetary formation are too narrow for the richness of the universe? Beyond the facts, beyond the measurements, lies the realm of speculation. And speculation is where the mind wanders when the heart is quiet. Some wondered, what if its odd chemistry and hyperbolic flight were not simply natural accidents? What if hidden beneath its icy crust, something more deliberate rested a probe, a machine, a disguised visitor carrying intentions beyond our comprehension? The rational voice of science tells us to be cautious to avoid leaping into fantasy. And yet, the quiet of the night invites imagination. What if? What if this is not just a rock from another star, but a whisper from another intelligence, careful enough to mimic the language of comets? Perhaps it is just our tendency to turn the unknown into stories. Human beings have always done this. When the Greeks looked into the sky, they saw gods and monsters written among the constellations. When the Mayans tracked Venus, they linked it to cycles of war and renewal. When medieval villagers saw a comet blazing overhead, they often whispered of omens. We have always read the heavens like a book, filling the blank spaces with our fears, our hopes, our myths. 3i. Atlas is just the latest page in that ongoing narrative. We do not know what it means, but we cannot resist the urge to assign meaning. The true wonder, though, is not in whether it is alien technology or natural comet. The true wonder is that we are here alive in this narrow sliver of time, able to watch it, to measure it, to wonder about it. For billions of years, it wandered unseen through the chaos of galactic tides, past stars, long dead across distances that defy imagination. And for a brief moment, just a cosmic blink, it passes through our neighborhood, allowing us to notice. That alone is extraordinary. Imagine standing by a vast ocean, watching a bottle wash ashore, containing a fragment of a story from lands you'll never visit. That is 3i Atlas, a relic of places unknown, a fragment of cosmic history delivered to our doorstep. So tonight, as you let your breathing slow and your eyelids grow heavy, think of this wanderer gliding silently beyond Mars, beyond the sun already heading back to the darkness between the stars. Its story is not about fear, but about perspective. It tells us that the universe is old, vast and mysterious, but also steady, lawful and predictable. It reminds us that beauty often comes without intention, that mystery is not always threat. 3i. Atlas is here, and then gone. But its presence leaves us with a quiet gift, the sense that we are part of something larger, something still unfolding, something endlessly rich. Sleep softly knowing this. The cosmos is not empty, but filled with gentle visitors carrying whispers from distant worlds. And tonight, one of them has brushed against our awareness, reminding us that even in the quiet, even in the darkness, there is wonder. Picture a path through space so strange that even the sun cannot hold it. That is the trajectory of 3i Atlas, a hyperbolic arc sweeping across our solar system like a brushstroke painted by the hand of time itself. Unlike planets which circle endlessly, or asteroids which loop and meander in familiar ellipses, this visitor has no intention of staying. Its orbit is open unbound, like a traveler passing through a town, pausing only long enough to leave us with questions before disappearing again. It is a fleeting glimpse of the vast migration routes that exist beyond the maps of human understanding. When astronomers first calculated the numbers, they found something almost poetic. Its eccentricity exceeded 1. That single digit is the key. An orbit with eccentricity less than 1 is closed, trapped within the sun's embrace. An orbit equal to 1 perfectly parabolic is a rare edge case, a balance between staying and leaving. But greater than 1 means freedom. It means escape. 3. I Atlas belongs not to our solar system, but to the galaxy at large. It is a citizen of the Milky Way, and we are only a brief stop along its endless road. The sheer velocity of this object adds to its mystique. Over 130,000 miles per hour, faster than any spacecraft we have ever built. Faster than bullets. Faster even than the wildest imaginations of science fiction's earliest writers. To put it in human terms, if Atlas could travel along Earth's surface, it would sprint from New York to Los Angeles in about a minute and a half. It would cross the Atlantic Ocean in less than 30 seconds. That speed is not just a number, it is a reminder of the scale of forces that shaped this traveler to the titanic gravitational slingshots of distant stars, the ancient chaos of planetary births and deaths that hurled it outward. And yet, with all its swiftness, it follows a path we can chart with exquisite precision. This is one of the quiet marvels of astronomy, the ability to predict where an object will be, not just tomorrow but centuries from now, simply by observing its motion today. It is as though the universe itself is a great clockwork ticking in rhythms too vast for human lifetimes but no less steady. 3. I Atlas Wild. Though it may seem, moves according to these rhythms. Its trajectory is no accident. It is written into the very mathematics of celestial mechanics, a poem of motion composed by gravity. But hidden within that poetry lies unease. The very fact that it comes and goes so quickly means we only have a narrow window to study it. For most of its approach, it shines faintly, almost invisible to the naked eye. Only when it nears the sun does it awaken gases, boiling off into a glowing coma that telescopes can capture. Then, just as it becomes most active, it slips behind the glare of the sun, blinding our instruments. It is as if the cosmos has arranged its passage to keep its secrets, allowing us a glimpse, but never the whole story. Coincidence? Almost certainly. Yet, the timing feels like a riddle, as though nature itself enjoys hiding the answers in plain sight. For those inclined toward imagination, this coincidence takes on symbolic weight. What if the hyperbolic arc is not just a natural trajectory, but a deliberate maneuver? What if speed itself is a kind of camouflage, ensuring that no one world, no single civilization could ever catch up? In this speculation 3, I Atlas becomes not just a wanderer, but a courier delivering messages across the galaxy with the patience of millennia. Each flyby of a star system might be a chapter in its endless mission. Each gravitational push, another page turned in a story we cannot yet read. Even without such speculation, its trajectory carries a lesson about perspective. Imagine standing on the shore and watching a ship pass in the distance. It does not dock, it does not signal, it simply glides along the horizon. For a moment you wonder about the passengers, the cargo, the origin, and the destination. Then it vanishes, leaving only ripples. That is the experience of watching 3 I Atlas. We do not know where it came from with certainty, only that it likely belongs to the thick disk of our galaxy, a population of ancient stars and their remnants older than our Sunday. We do not know where it is headed, only that it will not return. Our entire species will live and die without ever seeing it again. Some might find this melancholy, others find it liberating. To think that such travelers exist is to acknowledge that the universe is alive with motion, with stories we will never fully know. 3. Atlas is just one among countless wanderers to most invisible, some briefly visible, each carrying the imprint of places we may never reach. The Vera Rubin Observatory, once it begins its full operations, may reveal dozens of such objects each year. What feels rare today may one day feel common, a reminder that the galaxy is teeming with cosmic drifters. And yet each will retain its individuality, its strangeness, its fleeting gift of perspective. The hyperbolic path also inspires reflection on time. This object has likely traveled for billions of years, longer than life has existed on Earth, perhaps longer than Earth itself has existed. During that journey, stars have been born and have died, galaxies have collided, and entire civilizations, if they ever existed, may have risen and fallen without leaving a trace. And still, Atlas has endured steady in its motion, guided only by the impartial hand of gravity. When you imagine that time-scale human concerns shrink to their proper size, our wars, our politics, our anxieties, all are moments shorter than a blink compared to the journey of this ancient traveler. So tonight, as you picture its trajectory, do not imagine a threat. Imagine instead a path painted across the heavens, a graceful curve connecting the unknown past to the unknowable future. Think of it as a reminder that we too are travelers moving through space on a planet that circles the sun within a solar system, that circles the galaxy within a galaxy that drifts among others in the expanding fabric of the cosmos. Our lives are brief arcs, but they are arcs nonetheless, part of the same great geometry that guides comets, stars, and galaxies alike. In the end, the trajectory of 3I Atlas is more than mathematics. It is a story about freedom, about journeys without return, about the quiet beauty of motion unbound. And as you let the thought settle into your mind, as your body relaxes and your breathing slows, perhaps you can imagine yourself carried along with it, sailing outward, away from the sun, away from the familiar, into the silent sea where the stars themselves are islands. The unknown does not have to be frightening. Sometimes it is simply another way of saying possibility. When the James Webb Space Telescope turned its delicate gaze toward 3I Atlas, what it revealed was nothing short of astonishing. In the glow surrounding this icy traveler, the coma of gas and dust boiling gently into space, astronomers found not the expected breath of water vapor, but an overwhelming signature of carbon dioxide. The ratio was strange, almost upside down compared to the comets we know. 8 parts carbon dioxide to just 1 part water. It was like opening an old recipe book and finding that every ingredient had been reversed, every familiar flavor transformed into something alien. For centuries, comets have followed a predictable script. They are icy leftovers, frozen archives of solar system formation, and when they approach the sun, they awaken in stages. First, water begins to sublimate, then carbon monoxide, then carbon dioxide, and finally rarer molecules, each unfolding like movements in a symphony we have learned to recognize. But Atlas rewrote the music entirely. The melody was dominated by a note we almost never hear, CO2 powerful, abundant, filling the sky around it like the breath of an unseen giant. This deviation unsettled the scientists who measured it. But for storytellers, for poets, for dreamers, like you listening now, it was irresistible. Imagine if a person spoke but their words carried an accent so thick, so foreign that you could only catch glimpses of meaning. That is what Atlas gave us, a cosmic accent, a chemistry from a star system, not our own whispering in syllables we barely understand. How could this be? One natural possibility is that Atlas formed far from its parent star in a region where carbon dioxide snowlines ruled, where frozen CO2 was as common as water ice is in our solar system. Another idea is that it is ancient, so ancient that cosmic rays striking it for billions of years in interstellar space carved away its surface layers, sealing its water beneath a crust while leaving the more volatile gases free to escape. Perhaps it grew an insulating blanket of dust, trapping water deeper down, while carbon dioxide leaked through cracks like smoke from an ancient chimney. These are the safe explanations, the scientific ones, steady and plausible. And yet the mind cannot help but wonder, what if this chemical imbalance is not just accident, but intention? What if the ratio itself is a code written not in symbols or sounds, but in molecules? To us it looks like imbalance. To another intelligence, it might be a message, an equation, a signature. Imagine letters not on paper, but in light spectra waiting for those who know how to read them. Could Atlas be carrying not just ice, but information? There is precedent for strange chemistry that challenges our models. Comet C, divided by 2016 R, two nicknamed Pan stars, displayed oddities of its own, with excesses of carbon monoxide and nitrogen. Astronomers catalogued it as an outlier, an exception that proves diversity is greater than we expect. But what if the outliers are not accidents, but part of a hidden pattern? What if each interstellar visitor is a syllable in a galactic sentence, scattered across billions of years, waiting for us to notice? Think of it this way. Earth's own atmosphere, if seen from afar, would reveal an anomaly. The abundance of oxygen is unnatural on geological timescales. It is maintained only because life plants, algae forests, constantly replenishes it. To another civilization, our oxygen-rich spectrum would be the signature of intelligence. So when we look at Atlas and see chemistry that shouldn't exist, should we not at least entertain the thought that we are staring at someone else's oxygen, someone else's signature? Of course, speculation must be handled with care. Science thrives on humility, on testing ideas against evidence. No artificial signals, no controlled motions, no engineered features have been found in Atlas. It behaves like a comet, looks like a comet, follows the laws of comets. But even within that naturalness, it unsettles our expectations, and in that unsettling wonder grows. To ancient cultures, comets were omens. The Babylonians wrote of fiery messengers, harbingers of kings and calamities. The Chinese tracked their tails like calligraphy across the heavens, naming them with metaphors drawn from spears, brooms, and dragons. To medieval Europeans, a comet could presage the fall of empires. Today, we do not see omens, we see molecules. Yet the effect is the same. Comets remind us of the limits of our knowledge, the fragility of our certainty. They appear suddenly, burn brightly, then vanish, leaving behind questions that linger longer than the light itself. Imagine a candle burning in a silent cathedral. The flame flickers, and with each flicker shadows shift on the ancient stone walls. For a moment you think you see faces, messages, hidden forms in the shifting dark. That is what Atlas's chemistry feels like. Light, playing across the walls of our understanding, hinting at shapes we cannot quite resolve. As Atlas approached closer to the sun, its activity grew the coma, stretching thousands of kilometers into space, luminous enough to be captured from Earth with the right instruments. And still, the unusual ratio persisted, as if it were stubbornly holding on to its mystery. Scientists compared notes, debated, refined their models. Some leaned toward exotic birth conditions, others to the grinding patience of radiation over eons. But none could fully explain why this traveler chose to whisper in CO2. And so the speculation remains. Perhaps it is a mere quirk of chemistry. Perhaps it is a relic of an environment unlike any we know. Or perhaps it is something more, an encoded pattern, a signal hidden in plain sight, one we will only understand when we have learned to listen in the right way. But even if it is nothing more than ice sublimating into gas, even if it is pure chance and geology, there is still beauty in it. Because what Atlas truly represents is not certainty, but humility. It reminds us that the universe is broader than our textbooks, that reality is richer than our expectations. Each anomaly is an invitation, not a threat, a doorway through which curiosity can step into the unknown. So, as you drift deeper into rest, think of this cosmic candle burning with carbon dioxide, a chemistry that should not exist, and yet does. Think of the possibility that the universe has many recipes, many accents, many voices, and that each comet, each wanderer carries a new one. Let that thought soothe you. Let it remind you that the cosmos is not empty. It is filled with stories written in light, in ice, in molecules carried across billions of years. And tonight, as you breathe calmly, slowly, steadily, one of those stories has brushed against your imagination. From the very beginning, astronomers reassured the world. 3. I, Atlas, will not strike Earth. Its path, though swift and strange, will carry it no closer than 270 million kilometers, nearly twice the distance between Earth and Mars at their nearest approach. Numbers like these should bring comfort. They tell us there will be no collisions, no fiery skies, no apocalyptic upheavals. The visitor will glide past us in silence, bound only by gravity and the laws of motion. And yet, reassurance has never been the whole story. Safety does not silence curiosity. Sometimes the very fact of being safe opens the door to deeper, more unsettling questions. Think about it. If Atlas is harmless, then why does it feel so haunting? Perhaps because its mystery is not about impact, but about meaning. It is not a danger to our bodies, but a challenge to our imagination. A cosmic stranger comes close enough to be seen, but not close enough to be touched. What do we do with that? Do we dismiss it as just another comet, another icy wanderer, or do we allow ourselves to wonder whether there is more hidden in its silence than in its path? NASA's calculations are impeccable. Centuries of celestial mechanics give astronomers the confidence to predict trajectories with precision finer than a heartbeat. They know where Atlas will be tomorrow, next month, decades from now, even after it has vanished into the interstellar dark again. These numbers have weight, the kind of weight that builds trust. But beyond the mathematics, there lingers a shadow of unease. If it is so harmless, why does it feel so important? If it is merely a comet, why does it inspire so much speculation? Part of the answer lies in history. Humanity has always looked up at comets with mixed emotions. To some cultures, they were omens of death and disaster. To others, they were symbols of renewal, sweeping the heavens clean. Even when science replaced superstition, the aura of unease remained. A glowing stranger crossing the night sky is never just a rock. It is a mirror, reflecting our hopes and fears. Atlas, with its unusual chemistry and impossible speed, amplifies that mirror. It tells us nothing dangerous will happen, and yet invites us to ask, what if danger is not the question at all? The safe distance paradox becomes clear here. On one hand, distance protects us. On the other, distance prevents us from knowing. We cannot land a probe. We cannot drill into its nucleus. We can only watch, measure, and imagine. The further it remains, the more it demands that we fill the gap with speculation. This is the subtle, unsettling beauty of Atlas. It is both reassuring and provocative at once. It does not strike us, but it strikes our minds. Imagine standing at the edge of a forest, watching a figure pass between the trees. The figure does not approach, does not threaten, but you cannot shake the sense that you have been seen. That is what 3I Atlas feels like. It is a presence that does not need proximity to be powerful. The questions it awakens are not about craters and impacts, but about surveillance, intention, and possibility. Could something hide in plain sight, wearing the mask of a comet? Could a civilization far older than ours deploy watchers disguised as wanderers slipping unnoticed through the domains of countless stars? Science says no. The data so far fits natural processes. The glow is from sublimating ice. The motion is consistent with gravity. The signals are silent as they should be, yet the imagination lingers. Because safety has a way of lowering our guard, and when the guard is lowered, speculation seeps in. We begin to ask not, what will it do to us, but what does it say about us? What does it reveal about our tendency to fear, to dream, to assign meaning to the unknown? In the soft space between facts and fantasies, Atlas becomes a philosopher's comet. It forces us to confront a strange kind of worst-case scenario, not one of physical destruction, but of intellectual disruption. What if the cosmos is filled with such visitors, and each one tells us not about danger, but about how small we truly are? What if the true hazard lies not in collision, but in comprehension, the unsettling awareness that we are only one tiny civilization in a galaxy filled with silent messengers, each indifferent to our existence, and yet there is comfort even in this discomfort, because the very act of asking these questions shows something beautiful about us. We are curious endlessly so. We do not only measure the distance, we wonder what the distance means. We do not only chart the trajectory, we ask whether the trajectory has a purpose. This blend of caution and imagination is what defines us as a species. It is why Atlas, though safely distant, feels intimate. It has reached into our thoughts, even if it will never reach our world. Perhaps that is the true gift of this safe distance. It allows us to project our fears without consequence, to imagine scenarios without suffering them. In the silence between stars, Atlas becomes a canvas. On it we paint stories of alien civilizations, of hidden codes, in chemistry of dark forests, where survival depends on silence. We are not afraid of impact, we are afraid of what we cannot know. And paradoxically, that fear is also a form of wonder, because it proves that we still see the universe as alive with possibilities. So tonight, as you let these thoughts drift through, you remember 3. I, Atlas, is safe. It will pass by quietly, a flicker of light against the backdrop of stars, leaving our planet untouched. But in that very safety lies its power. It will not harm us physically, but it may change the way we see ourselves. It reminds us that not every question has to involve survival. Some questions exist simply to expand our imagination, to push us into realms of thought where answers are less important than the act of wondering. Breathe deeply and imagine it a small mountain of ice and dust, glowing faintly in the dark, gliding past our sun on a path that leads outward away into silence. It is safe, and yet it has unsettled us in the most gentle, necessary way. It has reminded us that the cosmos is not just predictable, but also profoundly mysterious. That is not a danger. That is a gift. There comes a moment after the facts have been carefully laid down when the imagination begins to stir. Numbers reassure us. The trajectory is hyperbolic, the chemistry unusual but explainable, the distance safe. And yet, in the quiet of the night, another question whispers. What if 3I Atlas is not only a comet? What if it is something more? Something wearing the mask of a comet, playing the role so well that even our best instruments cannot tell the difference. Between comet and machine lies a shadowed space, and it is there that wonder often dwells. Science is cautious about such leaps. Astronomers remind us that comets have always surprised us. When pulsars were first discovered, their radio signals were so precise that researchers half-jokingly named them LGM little green men before realizing they were the rotations of neutron stars. When fast radio bursts were detected, they seemed inexplicable until patient study revealed exotic natural processes. History has shown us again and again that what appears alien at first often turns out to be another expression of nature's strange creativity. And yet history has also shown that nature's surprises can be stranger than fiction. Oumuamua, the first interstellar visitor, reminded us of this. Its elongated shape, its odd acceleration that seemed inconsistent with typical cometary outgassing, it left enough questions that some, like Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb, wondered aloud if it might be artificial. No evidence confirmed that suspicion. But the very act of raising the question broke a boundary. It reminded us that extraordinary claims must be weighed carefully, but also that the universe has no obligation to remain ordinary. And so with 3I Atlas, the thought returns. What if? What if? Its chemistry is not just unusual but intentional. What if its path through space is not only the product of ancient gravitational slingshots, but a chosen route designed with patience and precision? Imagine for a moment that 3I Atlas is not a simple lump of ice and dust, but a vessel disguised to look that way. Imagine it carrying instruments, tucked deep within sensors that watch us as we watch it. A machine masquerading as a natural body drifting unnoticed through system after system recording, perhaps transmitting, perhaps simply waiting. Of course, when we look for evidence, we find none. No radio signals beam from it. No course corrections disturb its smooth trajectory. No metallic glint betrays an artificial core. Every test we can make places it firmly in the category of natural comet. And yet, absence of evidence is not always evidence of absence. Perhaps a civilization capable of engineering such an object would be subtle enough to avoid our detection, advanced enough to design its disguise, not as a surface trick, but as a genuine chemical body. To us, it looks like ice, because it is ice layer upon layer of authenticity built into the mask itself. If that sounds like science fiction, it is worth remembering that our own technology already hints at such possibilities. On Earth, we build drones, the size of insects, machines that mimic birds, devices that blend into landscapes. We talk about nanotechnology that could repair itself, satellites that could disguise their signals as background noise. If we can imagine such things at our level, what might a civilization millions of years older be capable of? But here is the gentle paradox. Even if Atlas were a machine, its presence would still be benign. It does not strike us. It does not interfere. If it watches, it does so silently, asking nothing from us except that we notice its passage. That silence may itself be the most thought-provoking element. What does it mean to be observed without knowing by whom? What does it mean to live in a universe where intelligence might exist, not announcing itself with fireworks, but slipping by quietly, almost invisibly? In ancient times, myths often blurred the line between natural and artificial. The Greeks told stories of Hephaestus, the godsmith forging automatons of metal that looked alive. The Chinese told of celestial dragons that brought rain, their movements tied to comets and stars. The boundary between what was natural and what was made was never rigid in the human imagination. 3I Atlas sits in that same liminal space for us today. To the scientist, it is a comet. To the poet, it could be a machine cloaked in ice, a watchful eye disguised as a wandering star. And perhaps this is the true lesson. The value lies not in proving one explanation over another, but in the act of asking. If it is natural, then it expands our knowledge of cometary chemistry, reminding us how diverse planetary systems can be. If it is artificial, then it tells us we are not alone. Either answer is extraordinary. Either answer deepens our understanding of our place in the cosmos. So as you listen tonight, let your thoughts drift between comet and machine. Picture it both ways. a frozen relic of ancient formation, and a hidden probe gliding past under a perfect disguise. In one vision, it is the debris of star birth, carrying within it the whispers of stellar neighborhoods older than our own. In the other, it is the child of minds we cannot imagine traveling with purpose beyond our grasp. Both are humbling. Both are beautiful. The important thing is not to decide, but to remain open. Science thrives on evidence, but imagination thrives on questions. 3. Atlas gives us both data that can be measured and mysteries that can be wondered about. Its safe distance ensures no harm, and its strange chemistry ensures no easy answers. It is exactly the kind of visitor that lulls us into reflection, the kind of story that lets you fall asleep with your mind wandering toward the stars. Perhaps as you drift deeper into rest, you can imagine Atlas looking back at us, whether as a simple comet reflecting sunlight or as a disguised machine quietly taking notes. Either way, its presence is not a threat, but an invitation. An invitation to wonder, to imagine, and to feel small in the best possible way. Because in the end, between comet and machine, lies not fear, but awe. And awe, gentle and quiet, is the perfect companion for sleep. There is a theory that lingers on the edge of astronomy and philosophy alike, whispered more often in science fiction than in science textbooks. It is called the dark forest hypothesis. The idea is simple yet chilling. The universe is like a vast dark forest, and every civilization is a hunter. Each one carries the fear that if it reveals itself, it might be discovered and destroyed by someone stronger. So like cautious animals in the night, civilizations stay silent, hiding their presence, listening but never calling out. Now imagine 3I Atlas through this lens. Not just a comet, not just a fragment of ice and dust, but a mask, a disguise moving silently through the dark forest of the galaxy. To us, it looks harmless, natural, even beautiful. But what if to someone else it carries another purpose, observation, reconnaissance, or simply the patience of an intelligence that knows silence is the safest language of all? This is, of course, pure speculation. All the data we have tells us that Atlas is a comet. Its coma shines with sublimated gases, its tail streams in the solar wind, its orbit matches the mathematics of gravity. Nothing in our telescopes screams artificial. But the dark forest hypothesis does not require obvious signals. Its very essence is subtlety. If a civilization wanted to hide, what better way than to send watchers disguised as nature itself? Picture the engineering involved. A probe designed to mimic cometary behavior would need to reproduce every signature we expect: the right gases, the right thermal glow, the right outgassing as it approaches a star. Its disguise would have to be perfect, not superficial but chemical, physical, complete. To us, it would be indistinguishable from a comet, because in every measurable way it would be one. That is the unsettling brilliance of the thought. The mask is not a costume, the mask is reality itself. And yet, as frightening as that may sound, there is comfort here too. Because if such watchers exist, they are silent. They do not announce themselves. They do not interfere. They pass through invisible, except for the faint trace of light they leave in our skies. Perhaps they have drifted through countless systems, countless civilizations, never revealing their true nature, only watching, only remembering. In that vision, Atlas becomes not a threat, but a library, a wandering archive collecting the stories of worlds and carrying them quietly into the future. The dark forest hypothesis often paints a bleak picture, a universe where silence equals survival and every signal is a risk. But there is another way to look at it. Silence can also be a kind of kindness, a respect for the fragility of others. To remain hidden is not always to hunt. It can also be to refrain, to observe without harm. If Atlas is masked, then its mask might be less about deception and more about restraint, a way of moving through the galaxy without leaving scars. History gives us parallels. Explorers on Earth often wore disguises of a sort, camouflaging their ships, concealing their movements, or cloaking their intentions. Sometimes it was for conquest, other times it was for survival, and sometimes it was simply for curiosity. We cannot know which of these, if any, applies to Atlas. But the mask it wears, whether natural or imagined, reminds us that the line between safety and secrecy is thin. For some, the dark forest is a nightmare, a cosmos filled with hunters waiting in silence. But for others, it is a lullaby of humility. It tells us that the universe may be populated not by conquerors, but by caretakers too cautious to reveal themselves. It tells us that intelligence might be everywhere, but patience even more so. And patience, like silence, can be deeply soothing. Think of Atlas gliding now masked in its icy glow. It does not roar. It does not threaten. It whispers only through light, reflected from the sun, and even that whisper will fade as it moves away. If it wears a mask, it is the gentlest of masks, one that harms no one that leaves behind only curiosity. In the vast, dark forest, that may be the kindest presence we could hope for. And perhaps the real mask is not worn by Atlas at all, but by us. Humanity has always dressed the unknown, in stories draped mysteries in fear or hope, cloaked the incomprehensible in myths. The mask we place on Atlas, whether comet machine or disguised visitor, is our own way of living in the forest. We are the ones who imagine hunters, who project silence as menace, who fear that discovery will mean destruction. Atlas only passes by. The mask is ours. So as you rest tonight, let the thought settle. The universe may be a dark forest, but it is not always hostile. Sometimes silence is not a threat, but a promise. Sometimes masks are not for hiding enemies, but for protecting mysteries until we are ready to understand them. 3. Atlas, masked or unmasked, is part of that promise. It is a reminder that what we cannot see may still be beautiful, what we cannot understand may still be gentle, and what we fear may in the end simply be another form of wonder. Breathe slowly. Let the darkness around you feel like the forest of stars. Imagine the masked traveler drifting past, calm and silent, a guardian of secrets too vast to speak. And let that silence guide you into sleep, not with fear, but with peace. If 3I Atlas is not merely ice and dust, if it is more than comet, then another possibility drifts into view, one even more haunting than disguise or intent. What if it is a relic? Not the creation of a civilization alive today, but the echo of one long gone. Imagine it as a ghost ship, gliding silently through the interstellar sea, carrying within its frozen shell the last testimony of minds that vanished billions of years ago. This idea is not as far-fetched as it first sounds. Civilizations rise and fall. On Earth, empires once mighty are now reduced to ruins, their voices preserved only in stone and fragments of writing. The Babylonians charted the skies with precision, yet their cities crumbled. The Romans built aqueducts that still stand, but their empire dissolved into memory. If such fragility exists here, why would it not exist everywhere? A civilization capable of launching probes, disguised as comets, may have flourished once, only to perish under the weight of time war or its own mistakes. Atlas, then, would not be a messenger of intent, but a tombstone drifting across eternity. The thought chills, but it also inspires. Because what if within that nucleus, beyond the veil of ice and CO2, there are still traces, patterns, codes, structures left behind by a people who no longer exist? What if the chemistry we see is not just anomaly, but artifact, the molecular handwriting of a culture erased from the galaxy? It is like finding pottery shards buried in desert sand, or inscriptions carved into stone walls, incomplete, enigmatic, yet profoundly moving. Consider the timescales. Atlas may be billions of years old. Its journey could have begun before Earth formed, when our sun was still young and the Milky Way a more chaotic place. In that deep time, countless stars have lived and died, entire planetary systems born and destroyed. The civilization that built Atlas, if it was built, might have risen in a corner of the galaxy, long since transformed, its star-gone red giant, its worlds turned to ash. And yet the probe endures, still gliding, still carrying its silent cargo. There is a strange kind of immortality in that vision. The makers may be gone, but their creation survives. We, the latecomers, glimpse it now, and through that glimpse, the dead speak again. Even if we never decode its secrets, even if it is nothing more than frozen gas, the very idea that it might hold such memories is enough to remind us that intelligence leaves traces. We too are leaving traces, radio signals, spacecraft bits of technology flung into space. Perhaps long after we are gone, Voyager or Pioneer will cross paths with another young species, and we will be the ghosts to them. The possibility of relics scattered through the galaxy has long fascinated thinkers. Some call them messages in a bottle, others cosmic archaeology. Instead of meeting living civilizations, we may find only their remnants drifting endlessly, carrying evidence of what once was. To study such relics would be to practice archaeology on a galactic scale, brushing away cosmic dust to reveal the bones of forgotten cultures. Atlas could be one such relic, whether by design or by accident, a survivor from a time before time. And here, imagination stretches further still. What if Atlas is not simply the relic of one civilization, but of many? What if it has gathered across its billion-year journey materials from countless encounters, dust from one system, molecules from another, subtle modifications left by many hands or many machines? It could be less like a single monument and more like a wandering library, a patchwork of histories written into its very substance, a cosmic palimpsest layered with the fingerprints of ages we can barely dream of. To human hearts, such a thought is bittersweet, because relics remind us of mortality. They whisper that no matter how advanced, no matter how powerful, all civilizations eventually face decline. The great pyramids endure, but the kings who built them are long dust. The Mayan temples rise above the jungle canopy, but the people who carved them have moved on. If Atlas is a relic, then it tells us that intelligence is not immune to time. It flourishes, it creates, it wonders, and then it fades. But relics also carry hope. They say that even when a people vanish, their creations can endure, speaking across centuries, even millennia, even billions of years. The builders may not have intended Atlas to reach us, but here it island, and in seeing it, we are connected to them. Across unimaginable gulfs of time and space, across silence and extinction, one thread remains: curiosity. They launched it perhaps in hope or fear. We observe it in awe and wonder. That continuity is a kind of dialogue, fragile but real. Imagine then, as you drift towards sleep, that Atlas is not only comet but chorus. The voices of civilizations past murmur through its chemistry, through its strange trajectory, through the very fact of its endurance. Perhaps they ask us to learn from them, to avoid their mistakes. Perhaps they simply wanted to be remembered. Perhaps they never intended anything at all, but, in the end, intention is not required. Presence is enough. Existence itself is message. And so the ghosts of civilizations past may not frighten us, but comfort us. They remind us that we are not alone in our fragility, that the struggles of humanity are not unique, but part of a larger pattern of rise and fall written into the history of the cosmos. They remind us, too, that even after decline, something endures. A fragment of stone, a shard of pottery, a frozen comet gliding through the dark. As you close your eyes, let yourself imagine drifting alongside Atlas. Feel the silence of space, the weight of ages pressing gently, like a lullaby sung in an unfamiliar tongue. You do not need to understand every word to feel its meaning. It is the song of endurance, the song of memory, the song of ghosts who were once alive beneath alien suns. And tonight, their song has reached you. Among the most haunting questions in science is one posed by physicist Enrico Fermi over lunch in 1950. If the universe is so vast and life has had so much time to emerge, where is everybody? This question has come to be known as the Fermi paradox, and one of its most unsettling answers is what philosophers and scientists call the great filter. Somewhere hidden along the ladder of progress from chemistry to consciousness, from simple molecules to star-faring civilizations, there may be a barrier so steep that nearly everyone fails to climb it. Now picture 3. I, Atlas, drifting silently into our solar system under this shadow. If it were only a comet, its presence is simple, a relic of planetary formation hurled into interstellar space. But what if it is more? What if it is evidence, not of life's flourishing, but of its fragility? Perhaps it carries with it the faint echo of a people who once existed, who built wonders, who sent objects into the galaxy, and who then, inevitably, fell against the barrier. Atlas could be their fossil, their testimony, their unintentional obituary. The great filter can take many forms. It might appear early, making the spark of life itself an almost impossible accident. In that case, we on Earth would be unimaginably lucky, rare beyond words to be alive at all. Or it may come later when civilizations develop tools so powerful that they risk destroying themselves before they learn to wield them wisely. Nuclear weapons, ecological collapse, runaway technologies, our own age, brims with examples of dangers we created faster than we created wisdom. The filter could be out there waiting for us, as it has waited for all before. If Atlas were truly artificial, then the question becomes unavoidable: did its makers survive? The comet's likely antiquity suggests it could be billions of years old. If so, then the ones who launched it are almost certainly gone. No civilization that we know could last across such timescales. Even stone crumbles. Even stars die. Technology might endure longer than flesh, but eventually, entropy wins. Atlas could be a silent witness to that truth. Civilizations may rise high enough to send emissaries across the galaxy, yet still vanish before those emissaries ever find another intelligence to greet. There is a sobering beauty in this thought, because if the great filter has already claimed countless others, then Atlas is not just an anomaly, it is a warning. It tells us that intelligence alone does not guarantee survival. That progress is not the same as permanence. That the galaxy may be littered with relics, each one a monument to a people who tried, who dreamed, who failed. The silence we hear when we tune our radio telescopes to the stars might not mean the universe is empty. It might mean it is haunted. And yet the great filter can be read another way. If the hardest step lies behind us, if life itself is the improbable leap and we have already crossed it, then perhaps Atlas is simply another reminder of how rare we are. In that reading, it is not a warning, but a reassurance. We are the exception, the lucky few who made it past the hardest gate. And if that is true, then the responsibility we carry is immense. We may be among the first sparks of consciousness in the galaxy to endure long enough to notice the others, even if those others are only fossils. Atlas, with its strange chemistry and ancient path, becomes the perfect symbol for this dual interpretation. On one hand, it may whisper, "Beware. Most who walk this road fall before its end." On the other, it may say, "Congratulations. You have already passed the hardest test. Which message is true we cannot know. And that uncertainty is part of the quiet unease. The great filter stirs within us. Think of the parallels on Earth. Civilizations here have faced their own filters. The Mayans built pyramids that still pierce the jungle canopy, but drought and internal conflict unraveled their society. Rome built aqueducts and roads that still scar the land, yet its empire dissolved into fragments. Each thought itself immortal, each discovered otherwise. If Atlas is the relic of a galactic Rome or Babylon, then it tells us that decline is universal, that the filter does not care for ambition. It arrives eventually, and civilizations yield. And yet human beings are not only witnesses to decline, we are also dreamers of endurance. We send probes beyond the solar system. We design archives to last 1,000 years. We carve messages into golden records and hurl them into the void. Perhaps that is the point, to leave something behind even if we do not endure. Atlas could be exactly that, a galactic golden record crossing billions of years, not to deliver a message directly, but simply to exist long enough that someone might notice. That act alone would be victory over silence. So as you breathe slowly, now let your thoughts drift into the scale of deep time. Imagine Atlas gliding past, not as a threat, but as a reminder. Its presence is like a whisper from the universe. Civilizations may rise, they may fall, but the cosmos continues. The great filter is not a wall to be feared, but a mirror to be faced. It reflects our fragility, our arrogance, and our hope. It asks us to think carefully about the future we are building. Whether we will endure or fade, whether we will join the ghosts or outlast the filter is unknown. But in that uncertainty lies freedom. We are not doomed yet. We are still here, still alive, still capable of imagining and of acting. Atlas passes safely by leaving us with no danger, only perspective. And perhaps that is the most precious gift of all. So tonight, as your eyelids grow heavy, think of the great filter, not as a threat, but as a teacher. It reminds us to be humble, to care for our fragile world, to imagine wisely before we act recklessly, and to know that even in silence, even in shadows, the cosmos is filled with stories waiting to be heard. Atlas is one of them. And tonight, its lesson drifts quietly into your dreams. At a lunch table in Los Alamos in 1950, Enrico Fermi looked up from his sandwich and asked the question that still haunts us. Where is everybody? The universe, by all accounts, should be teeming with life. There are hundreds of billions of stars in our galaxy, and most of them have planets. Time has stretched long enough for countless civilizations to rise, spread, and leave their marks. And yet, when we listen, we hear silence. When we look, we see only the quiet glow of stars, with no obvious signs of neighbors. This silence is what we call the Fermi paradox. Now, place 3I Atlas within this paradox. A visitor from beyond our sun, wandering into our field of view, carrying chemical signatures from distant stars. In one sense, it is exactly what we should expect. Debris flung from faraway systems remind us that planetary formation is common across the galaxy. But in another sense, it deepens the puzzle. If wanderers like Atlas cross our skies so often, why have none of them revealed more? Why have we not yet found an unmistakable sign of intelligence, an engineered isotope ratio, a metallic structure, a signal embedded in the tail of a comet? Why only silence, even in visitors that seem to beg for questions? The whisper of Fermi's question echoes here. Where is everybody? If the galaxy is alive with minds, why do they not leave fingerprints in the wanderers they cast off? Perhaps the answer lies in concealment, as the dark forest hypothesis suggests. Perhaps civilizations are careful cloaking their presence, disguising their emissaries. Or perhaps the answer is simpler and sadder. Maybe we are rare. Maybe we are early. Maybe there are not many everybodies to find. When we gaze at Atlas through this lens, it becomes more than comet. It becomes a test. Its silence is data. The absence of signals, the absence of anomalies beyond chemistry, is part of the evidence. Evidence that so far all interstellar visitors appear natural. And with each one the silence grows louder, like a room full of chairs where no one comes to sit. Like a concert hall built for thousands where only one musician arrives to play, and yet silence itself can be deceptive. When radio telescopes sweep the sky, they expect to hear signals that resemble our own narrowband transmissions, regular pulses, patterns distinguishable from cosmic noise. But what if others do not speak as we do? What if they communicate in ways we cannot yet detect? In gravitational waves, in neutrino streams, in chemical signatures written into comets? If so, then Atlas may not be mute at all. We may simply lack the ears to hear its whisper. Imagine an insect crawling across a violin. To the insect, the wood is silent. To us standing nearby, it sings with music. Perhaps the silence we perceive in the cosmos is like that our instruments tuned to the wrong key, our senses too narrow for the symphony being played. Atlas could be part of that symphony, a note too low or too high for us to register a vibration outside our awareness. The Fermi paradox may not be about absence, but about misunderstanding, and yet the paradox persists. We have listened for decades. We have scanned billions of frequencies. We have analyzed comets, asteroids, stars, galaxies. Nothing. No beacon, no call, no unambiguous signature. Each discovery, like Atlas, only reminds us how ordinary the universe seems, even in its strangeness. That ordinariness is comforting. It means we are not in danger. But it is also unsettling. It means the loneliness we feel may not be temporary. There are many proposed answers to Fermi's question. Some say civilizations destroy themselves quickly. After reaching technological maturity, the great filter we spoke of before. Others say they transcend into forms we cannot recognize, dissolving into digital clouds or higher dimensions. Still others suggest they are out there, but the galaxy is vast, and we are simply not looking in the right place at the right time. The truth could be any of these. The truth could be none. And so Atlas becomes a symbol of that whisper, a reminder that the universe does not owe us answers. It gives us puzzles, instead objects that cross our skies bearing chemistry from ancient stars, behaving like comets, but sparking questions far larger than their icy forms. In its silence, it joins the chorus of the cosmos, the great cosmic hush that leaves us wondering. Perhaps the paradox is not a paradox at all. Perhaps the universe is not silent. It is just quiet in the way a forest at night is quiet. Beneath the stillness, life stirs softly hidden in shadows. The silence is only the surface. Beneath there may be signals waiting to be noticed, if only we learn new ways to listen. For now, though we hear only the whisper of Fermi's question, echoed by every visitor like Atlas, where is everybody? And maybe in the end, that whisper is exactly what we need, because in asking it, we sharpen our curiosity. We refine our instruments. We remind ourselves that wonder is not only in answers, but in the persistence of the question itself. So, as you drift towards sleep, let Fermi's whisper accompany you. It is not a cry of despair, but a lullaby of curiosity. The universe may be quiet now, but silence does not mean emptiness. It means possibility. It means mystery. And tonight, as Atlas glides past at a safe distance, carrying its strange chemistry and ancient history, the whisper continues, "Where is everybody?" Perhaps one day we will know. For now, it is enough to wonder. What if comets are more than wanderers? What if within their frozen shells they carry possibilities not only of chemistry, but of life itself? For centuries, scientists have wondered whether life on Earth might have been seeded by icy bodies, striking our young planet billions of years ago. This idea panspermia suggests that the cosmos may scatter life the way a tree scatters seeds, letting chance and gravity decide where they take root. Now, imagine 3, I Atlas, not only as comet, but as vessel. Its nucleus, fractured and ancient, becomes a capsule of potential carrying hidden microseeds across the interstellar dark. To us, they would be invisible, locked in ice dormant for eons. To the universe, they would be spores of possibility, drifting between stars until conditions awaken them. Atlas, then, is not merely a visitor, but a gardener planting futures across worlds. Of course, science reminds us that the odds are slim. Radiation in interstellar space is merciless, bombarding molecules until they fray. Time itself is corrosive. 1 billion years is long enough to erase almost everything delicate. But there are life forms on Earth, tardigrades, bacterial spores, that can survive extremes we once thought impossible. Frozen, shielded by rock or ice, they endure vacuum, heat, and cold. If such resilience exists here, could it not exist elsewhere? Could Atlas carry its own seeds slumbering, still waiting for a sun to warm them awake? And yet, there is a darker version of this vision. Seeds can bring nourishment, but they can also bring invasion. Imagine Atlas as a Trojan horse, its gases merely a cloak for something more insidious. Not machines the size of mountains, but devices so small we could never detect them. Nanoscopic seeds, capable of waiting patiently until they encounter a civilization advanced enough to notice. Once awakened, they might observe, they might replicate, they might do things we cannot imagine. The silence of Atlas could hide either gift or trap, and we would not know until too late. Still, let us not lean into fear. The truth is that such scenarios remain fantasy, the kind of speculation that fuels stories but not yet science. What matters is what they stir within us, or at the idea that even in the smallest fragments of ice possibility may be preserved. Life, fragile and persistent, may not be confined to one world. It may hitch rides on comets, wander across galaxies, and take root in unexpected places. If so, then Atlas is not a stranger at all. It is kin carrying echoes of the same processes that gave rise to us. Consider how life began on Earth. Our oceans, billions of years ago, churned with molecules delivered by impacts, lightning, and time. Out of that soup order emerged proteins, cells, organisms, complexity. The seeds were simple, but the garden grew wild. If Atlas carries similar seeds, then somewhere, someday, another garden may bloom. We may never see it. We may never know. But that possibility stretches the imagination far beyond our own fragile world. Think of the myths humans have told. In many traditions, the universe itself was seeded by gods, by cosmic eggs, by rains of fire. The Greeks spoke of Prometheus, carrying fire to humanity, a gift hidden within punishment. The Polynesians told of Maui, casting his net into the sky to bring down the Sunday. The myths may be metaphor, but their resonance is clear. We have always imagined that what sustains us comes from beyond, delivered by forces larger than ourselves. In Atlas, we find a scientific echo of those old stories. It may not carry divine fire, but it carries chemistry. It carries possibility. If seeds lie within, then Atlas itself is a gardener who will never see the harvest. It passes through our system without pause, leaving behind nothing we can touch but perhaps scattering dust that will drift for centuries. Some particles may wander toward planets or slip quietly into interplanetary space. Most will vanish into the void, but perhaps one someday will find a place where it can grow. That is the patience of the cosmos. Unlike us, it does not demand immediate results. It plants on timescales of billions of years. Even if no literal seeds exist inside Atlas, the metaphor itself is powerful. For what is a comet but a seed of memory, carrying records of conditions that existed when its system was born? Its molecules are the alphabet of ancient chemistry, preserved across time, waiting for others to read. And we, by pointing our telescopes and spectrometers, are gardeners in our own way, planting questions in the soil of the unknown. Each answer sprouts another mystery. Each discovery grows into another wonder. So as you listen, let your thoughts soften into this image. A frozen traveler drifting past the sun, shedding gas and dust like pollen scattered by the wind. Imagine those grains spreading outward, invisible and countless, lost in space but filled with potential. They may do nothing. They may mean nothing. But possibility alone is enough. The universe is not empty. It is a field. And comets like Atlas are the seeds, silent and small, yet carrying futures we cannot yet see. Perhaps tonight as you fall asleep you will feel yourself as one of those seeds, drifting gently, waiting for the right conditions to bloom, held safe in darkness, yet carrying all the potential of light. Atlas is out there gliding past, but its message is already here. Everything begins with seeds, even stars, even galaxies, even dreams. When 3I Atlas entered our solar system, it did more than draw the attention of astronomers. It quietly pulled the gaze of the entire planet upward, uniting us in a way few events can. From the deserts of Chile to the icy plateaus of Antarctica, from the rooftops of New York to the rice fields of Asia, humanity turned its telescopes, cameras, and naked eyes toward the same faint light in the sky. In that moment, we became a single audience, gathered under one cosmic dome. The great instruments of our age came alive. NASA trained its eyes from ground-based observatories and space telescopes. The European Southern Observatory in Chile mapped its coma in delicate detail, measuring the strange excess of carbon dioxide. The James Webb Space Telescope stretched its golden mirrors toward the faint glow, dissecting the spectrum of light into secrets we could never see with our own eyes. Meanwhile, amateur astronomers huddled in backyards and mountain ridges, capturing images that, while less precise, carried just as much wonder. Every observation, professional or personal, was a thread in the same global tapestry. There is something soothing about that thought. In a world often fractured by conflict, politics, and misunderstanding, we paused to share the sky. We may disagree on countless things, but we can still stand together in awe of the same mysteries. Atlas reminded us of that. It was not an American comet, or a European comet, or an Asian comet. It belonged to no one, and yet it belonged to all. Its passage was a reminder that the universe does not draw borders. It simply unfolds. History has seen such moments before. When Halley's comet returned in 1910, people across continents stood together, some in fear, some in joy, all looking up. When Apollo 11 broadcast humanity's first steps on the moon, 1 billion people shared the same heartbeat, the same breath of wonder. In 1994, when fragments of comet Shoemaker-Levy 9 struck Jupiter, astronomers worldwide worked as one, tracking the impacts like a cosmic fireworks display. These events become bookmarks in our collective memory, moments when the world briefly remembers itself as one species on one planet. Atlas is now among them. But beyond the unity, there was also contrast. For the scientists, Atlas was data, orbital parameters, spectral lines, models of sublimation. For the dreamers, it was myth, reborn, a messenger, a question, a ghost. And for those who simply glanced at the night sky, it was a fleeting beauty, a reminder that the heavens are alive. Each perspective was valid. Each one added to the chorus. Together, they created something richer than any single observation could achieve. Imagine the scene: an astronomer in Hawaii, aligning a telescope in the dark, her fingers cold against the metal controls. A child in India holding his father's hand as they point out a faint streak near the horizon. A retiree in France, adjusting binoculars with patient care, remembering the nights of youth when he watched Halley. A farmer in Africa pausing in his work just long enough to notice the unusual glow above the fields. Different languages, different lives, the same sky. Atlas connected them all silently, gently. And in that connection lies something profound. For if interstellar objects like Atlas remind us of anything, it is that we are small. We live on a planet barely a speck in the galaxy, fragile and brief, but we are also capable of noticing. We can measure, record, imagine. And in noticing together, we find common ground. Atlas gave us not just data, but community. Not just science, but shared wonder. Perhaps one day we will face a visitor not so harmless, something on a trajectory toward Earth. In that moment, unity may be survival. But Atlas gave us a rehearsal in gentleness, a reminder that we do not need crisis to come together. We can unite in curiosity, in beauty, in the shared act of looking up. That too is survival, not of bodies, but of spirit. The image of humanity watching Atlas together feels almost musical. Picture each observatory as an instrument, each camera as a voice, each observer as a note. Separately, they are fragments. Together they form a symphony, a hymn to the cosmos, composed not by one nation, but by the species itself. Atlas drifted across the stage, and we responded with music not in sound but in sight, not in rhythm but in shared attention. That symphony was global, and it was beautiful. So tonight, as you drift into rest, imagine yourself part of that chorus. Imagine your own gaze joined to millions of others all looking at the same distant visitor. Feel the unity in that act, the way a billion eyes can create a single heartbeat. Atlas did not change our lives materially. It did not alter our orbit or touch our world. But it touched something deeper, the awareness that we are, despite everything, capable of wonder together. And in that awareness, there is comfort. For as long as we can pause, as long as we can look up, as long as we can share the sky, we are not entirely divided. We are one planet watching one comet in one moment of time. That is enough. When humanity encounters the unknown, we tend to split into two impulses. One is curiosity, the drive to approach, to measure, to touch, to learn. The other is containment, the instinct to stay back, to watch cautiously, to shield ourselves from what we do not understand. With 3, Atlas, both impulses came alive. Astronomers and dreamers leaned forward, eager to know everything about this icy visitor. But others whispered, what if? What if our curiosity places us at risk? History is full of such moments. When Christopher Columbus sailed west in 1492, it was curiosity that drove him across the sea. He sought new lands, new trade, new horizons. But what followed was not only discovery, but devastation, disease, conquest, the reshaping of entire continents. When explorers first crossed the Pacific, curiosity carried them onward. But their arrival also brought unintended consequences to the islands they touched. Curiosity opens doors, but it also releases dangers often unforeseen. In the case of Atlas, containment has its own logic. What if hidden within its ice are microbes or molecules, unlike any on Earth? Bringing samples home could risk contamination. Even the dust that drifts from its tail could hold compounds we do not understand. Astronomers reassure us that the chance is low radiation likely sterilizes such bodies across their long journeys. Yet low does not mean zero. In the stillness of night, the mind lingers on the possibility, a gift wrapped in danger, a riddle better left unopened. And yet curiosity is relentless. We build telescopes that strain to catch every photon. We launch missions to comets and asteroids, daring to land on surfaces that have never known touch. Rosetta orbited Comet 67P for 2 years. Stardust returned grains of a comet's tail to Earth. OSIRIS-REx has brought back samples of asteroid Bennu. Curiosity does not sleep. It builds machines. It crosses voids. It risks everything to know more. How could we resist sending our attention toward Atlas, even if only through the eyes of telescopes? This tension, curiosity versus containment, is not only scientific, it is deeply human. As children, we are told not to touch the flame yet, we reach out anyway. Curiosity burns, but so does fire. The balance is delicate. To move too quickly is to risk harm. To move too slowly is to miss opportunity. With Atlas, we stand at that balance point. We cannot approach directly, but our minds already have. We imagine drilling into its nucleus. We imagine scooping its dust. We imagine what we would do if distance were not an obstacle. The irony is that curiosity and containment need not be enemies. They can be partners. Science thrives when curiosity is tempered by caution. Astronomers calculate safe distances, build sterile spacecraft quarantine samples, all to ensure that knowledge does not come at reckless cost. Containment shapes curiosity, guiding it towards safer paths. Perhaps the true art is not choosing one over the other, but weaving them together into wisdom. Atlas itself seems to embody this paradox. It comes close enough to intrigue us, but far enough to protect us. We can measure, but not touch. We can wonder, but not interfere. In a way, the cosmos has set the boundaries for us. It has drawn a circle of containment around our curiosity, reminding us that not everything is ours to grasp. And perhaps that is the gentlest lesson of all, that the universe sometimes keeps its secrets not out of cruelty, but out of kindness. Think of the myth of Pandora's box. Curiosity led her to open the container, releasing chaos into the world. But inside was also hope, waiting at the bottom. Curiosity unleashed both peril and possibility. Atlas is its own kind of box, sealed in ice, carrying mysteries. We cannot open now. To break it would risk too much. To leave it is to accept limits. But in leaving it, we preserve hope, the hope that one day when we are wiser, we may be ready. Containment can feel like fear, but it can also feel like patience. And patience is not weakness. It is strength, the ability to wait without surrendering wonder. Atlas teaches us that. We watch from afar, and in that distance imagination flourishes. We do not need to touch everything to learn from it. Sometimes observation is enough. Sometimes the boundary itself is the lesson. So tonight, as your thoughts quiet, imagine Atlas drifting safely away, out of reach, but not out of mind. See in it the dance of curiosity and containment, each necessary, each incomplete without the other. Curiosity is the spark, containment, the guardrail. Together, they let us move forward without falling. Together, they guide us toward wisdom, not just knowledge. And perhaps in this balance lies our best chance to endure. Civilizations that lean only on curiosity may burn themselves out. Those that cling only to containment may stagnate and fade. But those that learn the art of balance, of daring wisely, of venturing carefully, may yet survive the filters of time. Atlas is a reminder of that balance. A teacher disguised as a comet, reminding us that not every question needs to be answered now, but every question is worth holding on to. There are numbers so large that they slip past meaning, dissolving into abstraction. Light years, billions, quadrillions, figures that outgrow the human mind. We can count seconds, we can count years, but the scales of the cosmos stretch far beyond the reach of our imagination. And yet, when we look at Three-Eye Atlas, we are asked to try. We are asked to picture its journey, not in centuries, not in millennia, but in ages, so vast that mountains would rise and fall, oceans would shift, species would evolve and vanish, all while it drifts on. Astronomers estimate that Atlas has traveled for millions, perhaps billions of years. To put that into perspective, imagine a timeline. 1 million years ago, early humans were only beginning to tame fire. 10 million years ago, our ancestors had not yet dreamed of walking upright. 100 million years ago, dinosaurs ruled the earth, and the first flowers were only beginning to bloom. 1 billion years ago, there were no plants, no animals, just microbial mats clinging to shorelines. Through all these changes, through all this unimaginable span, Atlas may have been sailing silently, a fragment of frozen history wandering the void. Even the distances it crosses stagger the mind. From the nearest star system, Proxima Centauri light takes over 4 years to reach us. Atlas may have come from much farther from a star we cannot name one, perhaps now gone dark. It may have crossed dozens of light years, hundreds, perhaps thousands. Each light year is nearly 6 trillion miles. Multiply that by thousands, and the number becomes a blur, a cascade of zeros too vast to hold. And yet Atlas has carried that burden effortlessly, not rushing, not straining, but gliding patient, as only the cosmos can be. We humans are used to scales we can touch. A journey is a road between towns. A lifetime is decades marked by seasons. But Atlas reminds us that the universe is not built for our convenience. It works in dimensions so wide and times so deep that we can only stand at the shoreline listening to the surf of numbers crashing against our comprehension. And in that humility, there is wonder. Because even if we cannot fully grasp these scales, we can still feel their weight like standing before a vast canyon and sensing the immensity without needing to measure every stone. Think of how long Atlas has been silent. For eons, it drifted in darkness, untouched by sunlight, invisible to any eye. Only now, in this brief crossing of our solar system, does it flare into activity. Its coma brightens its gases, stream its presence, becomes known. For billions of years it was invisible, and for billions more it will be again. We see it only in this flicker of time, a single heartbeat in its endless journey. That alone is humbling to realize that our entire civilization, our entire history, is just a spark within Atlas's voyage. Even the speed at which it travels speaks to scale. At over 13,000,000 miles per hour, it outpaces anything we can imagine building. At that velocity, it could circle Earth in under 12 minutes. And yet, compared to the breadth of interstellar space, it moves like a snail crossing a desert. That is the paradox of scale. What feels unimaginably fast to us is glacial in the language of the stars. The cosmos has patience. It does not measure in hours or days, but in epochs. There is something soothing about surrendering to this vastness. Our problems, our anxieties, our conflicts, they shrink in the face of such immensity. The arguments of today, the worries of tomorrow, they become whispers against the roar of cosmic time, not because they do not matter, but because they remind us that we are part of something larger, something enduring. Atlas is a messenger of scale, reminding us that time is both fleeting and infinite, that distance is both unthinkable and traversable, if only we are willing to let go of our small measures. Cultures have always reached for metaphors to hold on to such immensity. The Norse spoke of Yggdrasil, the world tree that connected realms across infinity. Hindu cosmology describes cycles of time so vast that universes are born and destroyed in endless succession. In modern physics, we speak of billions of years, trillions of miles, the heat death of the cosmos. Each is an attempt to face the incomprehensible, to put into words scales that defy words. Atlas fits into this tradition not as a theory, but as a living metaphor. It is the embodiment of immensity, a single shard of ice carrying within it the truth of distances and times we cannot hold in our minds. And perhaps in the end, that is its greatest gift. Not knowledge we can quantify, but perspective we can feel. As you breathe tonight slowly and evenly, Imagine Atlas drifting through the galaxy, carrying within it the memory of stars long gone, moving toward a future we will never see. Its journey is not measured in days, but in ages. Its story is not about arrival, but about endurance. It reminds us that we too are part of scales beyond comprehension. Our atoms were forged in stars that lived and died before the Earth formed. Our species is but a blink in the age of life. Our lives are moments within that blink, and yet, within these tiny moments, we can imagine the infinite. So, close your eyes and let the vastness soothe you. You do not need to calculate every number or hold every distance. It is enough to know that Atlas drifts, that the cosmos endures, and that you are here alive to wonder at it. In the presence of such scales, in a universe so vast where distances defy imagination and timescales stretch longer than empires or species, it is easy to feel lost. The stars burn within different fire galaxies collide, and comets like 3I Atlas drift for eons without care for us. And yet, amidst this immensity, there is a quiet comfort, predictability. The cosmos may be vast, but it is not chaotic. Its rhythms can be known. Its motions can be charted. And in that knowledge, there is hope. Consider Atlas itself. From the moment astronomers calculated its orbit, they could predict where it would be, not just tomorrow, but decades, even centuries from now. Its hyperbolic path can be mapped with exquisite precision. At its closest, we knew it would remain 270 million kilometers away. We could trace its slow curve past the sun and watch it fade back into the interstellar night. This predictability is not just mathematics, it is reassurance. It tells us that even when the universe throws mysteries into our sky, they are mysteries within order, questions inside a framework that remains steady. Predictability has always been humanity's lantern in the dark. Farmers once looked to the stars to know when to plant and when to harvest. Sailors steered their ships by the constellations, trusting the steady rise and fall of stars across the horizon. Even now, spacecraft navigate across millions of miles, using the predictable pull of gravity slingshotting around planets, with the same certainty that an apple falls to the ground. Without predictability, we could not build science. Without science, we could not build trust in the future. And so when Atlas passes without danger, it is more than just relief. It is a reminder of stability. Even in the vast unknown, rules endure. Gravity does not betray us. The orbits we calculate unfold as expected. The universe may be mysterious, but it is not whimsical. It has patterns, laws, and consistency. In that we find a kind of cosmic kindness. For without those patterns, we would be adrift in chaos. With them, we can find our bearings even in the immensity of space. There is hope in this, because predictability is not only about safety, it is also about possibility. Knowing that orbits can be charted means we can send spacecraft across billions of miles to meet a comet or land on a distant moon. Knowing that light travels at a constant speed means we can measure the age of galaxies. Knowing that the chemistry of stars follows patterns means we can trace our origins to their furnaces. Each steady law of nature is a foothold for imagination. Atlas embodies this duality. It is strange, its chemistry unusual, its origin mysterious, but it also obeys the rules. Its path curves, as Newton and Einstein said it should. Its outgassing follows patterns of physics we recognize, even if the ratios surprise us. It unsettles us with questions, but it steadies us with law. It is both mystery and reassurance. That balance is what makes it so fascinating and so soothing. Imagine if it were otherwise. Imagine if Atlas had appeared on a collision course, unpredictable and erratic, defying every calculation. Panic would have followed. Fear would have replaced wonder. But that is not the story we have been given. Instead, the universe has offered us a puzzle that teases curiosity while also cradling us in safety. A strange visitor, yes, but a harmless one. A riddle, but not a threat. And in that combination there is hope, because hope often grows, not from certainty, but from reliability. We do not need all the answers to feel safe. We need only to know that the ground will hold, the stars will rise, the comet will pass. Predictability gives us the confidence to wonder. It frees us from fear long enough to imagine. Without it, we would cower. With it, we can dream. Even in our own lives, this truth holds. The rhythm of a heartbeat, the cycle of breath, the return of morning after night, these predictable patterns sustain us. They are not dull repetitions, they are the foundations of peace. And when we extend that truth to the cosmos, we find comfort in knowing that our tiny world is part of larger rhythms, steady and ancient. Atlas's trajectory is one of those rhythms. It comes, it passes, it leaves exactly as the laws of nature say it must. Think of civilizations before us. They too found solace in predictability. The Egyptians aligned pyramids with the stars, confident in their eternal return. The Mayans built calendars so precise that they could trace eclipses centuries in advance. Even the earliest humans marked the phases of the moon on bones and stone, finding meaning in its reliable cycle. Predictability has always been the bridge between awe and survival. It is how we built trust in the world around us. So tonight, let Atlas remind you that in a universe full of uncertainties, not everything is unknown. The laws of nature cradle us in patterns we can trust. Gravity will not suddenly reverse. Light will not suddenly change its speed. Comets will not suddenly leap from their paths to strike us without warning. The universe is vast, but it is also faithful, and in that faithfulness we can rest. As your breathing slows, picture Atlas on its journey. See it moving along its predictable arc, steady and graceful, never straying, never threatening. Feel the reassurance that brings the cosmos is immense, but it is not lawless. Mystery and order coexist, and in their balance we find space for wonder without fear. That is the hope Atlas offers, not in its answers, but in its obedience to the same rules that guide us from falling apples to orbiting stars. So close your eyes and let predictability be your comfort. Let the steady rhythms of the universe carry you gently into sleep. For even as comets come and go, even as questions rise and fade, the laws endure. And in their endurance, there is hope. Every story has a beginning, and every story has an end. For 3, Atlas. The end is not a fiery crash or a sudden disintegration, but a quiet departure. It entered our solar system without fanfare, revealed itself briefly in a shimmer of light, and now it drifts outward, once more fading into the depths from which it came. Its exit is gentle, like a guest slipping out of a room without disturbing anyone, leaving behind only the faint memory of its presence. As Atlas rounds the sun and begins its outward arc, it follows the same predictable path that brought comfort before. The heat awakens its icy nucleus, releasing gas and dust, painting a luminous veil that telescopes capture like a brushstroke across the dark. But then, slowly, the veil thins. The gases disperse. The coma shrinks. With each passing day, its glow fades a little more until only a faint point of light remains. Soon even that will vanish from our view. Its departure is not dramatic, but soft, like the fading notes of a lullaby. There is a poetic beauty in this kind of ending. Humanity often imagines grand finales, fireworks, explosions, climaxes that demand attention. But the cosmos prefers quiet exits. Stars die not only in supernovae, but in slow, graceful dimming into white dwarfs. Galaxies merge not with shouts, but with the silent swirl of stars over billions of years. Even comets like Atlas remind us that endings need not be violent. They can be gentle, patient, almost imperceptible, and yet the silence of its exit does not mean insignificance. On the contrary, its quiet departure is a message in itself. It tells us that not all visitors arrive to disrupt. Some come simply to remind, to nudge our awareness, to leave us with wonder. Atlas did not strike Earth. It did not blaze across the sky for all to see. Instead, it whispered to telescopes, stirred imaginations, and reminded us of the immensity beyond our reach. Its message is that the universe is filled with stories we will never fully know, but that noticing even one of them is enough. Think of how many other visitors must have come and gone unseen. For every Atlas we detect countless others must have passed unnoticed, too faint, too fast, too distant for our instruments to catch. They slip in and out of our solar system like travelers in the night, brushing past our world without leaving a trace. Atlas is special only because we caught it, because in our brief window of observation we turned our eyes upward at the right moment. Its departure is a reminder that wonder is not rare, only our awareness of it. In myths across cultures, messengers often arrive quietly, deliver their message and vanish again. Hermes in Greek stories, Odin in Norse tales, the wandering sages of Asia. They appear, they speak, they depart, leaving behind questions more than answers. Atlas fits that archetype perfectly. It gave us no clear revelation, no undeniable sign of other minds, but in its chemistry, in its trajectory, in its silence, it delivered something subtler perspective. It reminded us that the cosmos is not empty, that we are part of a story larger than ourselves, that sometimes presence alone is the message. Its exit is also a mirror of our own journeys. Each of us enters the world, makes our brief passage, and departs. Some lives blaze brightly, others quietly, but all are finite. Atlas has been traveling for ages, yet even its time with us is just a flicker. That flicker reminds us of the fleeting nature of all things, and in that reminder lies both melancholy and comfort. To know that everything ends makes us cherish the present more deeply. To know that endings can be gentle gives us hope that our own endings too may be peaceful. Even as Atlas fades, the data it left behind endures. The spectra recorded by Webb, the images taken by telescopes around the world, the numbers logged by astronomers, these become part of our knowledge. They will be studied, debated, revisited. Future generations may compare them to new discoveries, finding patterns we cannot yet see. In that sense, Atlas remains with us long after its light has vanished from the sky. Its exit is not erasure, it is transformation. It shifts from a presence in the heavens to a presence in our minds. So tonight, as you listen, imagine Atlas drifting slowly away. See it shrinking against the starfield, its glow dimming its dust, dispersing into silence. There is no rush, no violence, only patience. It leaves as it came, quiet, mysterious, gentle, and in that departure, it leaves us with something lasting, the memory of wonder, the reassurance of safety, the invitation to keep looking upward. Sleep softly with that image. A silent messenger has passed, leaving the stage as quietly as it entered. Its gentle exit is not loss, but gift. It tells us that the universe can surprise us without harming us, can teach us without frightening us, can whisper without shouting. And sometimes, a whisper is more powerful than a roar. Human beings live in two worlds at once. One is the world of fact, where numbers and measurements describe reality with precision. The other is the world of imagination, where stories and dreams color the unknown with meaning. When we look at 3I Atlas, both worlds awaken. The facts tell us it is a comet, an icy traveler with a hyperbolic orbit, a body rich in carbon dioxide. But imagination asks, What if it is more? What if behind the chemistry and physics lies a story we have not yet discovered? For centuries, humanity has danced between these two worlds. When eclipses darkened, the sun, ancient cultures told myths of dragons and wolves swallowing the light. Later, astronomers learned the mechanics of shadow and orbit. Both stories were true in their own way. The myth spoke to all, the science to explanation. Neither cancels the other. Together, they form a fuller picture of how we meet the unknown. Atlas too invites this duality, the comet we can measure and the mystery we can only dream. Science offers us clarity. Its orbit was calculated, its distance known. We can chart its future path, with precision predicting when it will fade from view. Instruments tell us its gases, its speed, its brightness. These are the anchors of knowledge, the firm ground beneath our feet. Without them, we would drift in superstition. And yet, imagination offers us wings. It asks questions. Science cannot answer questions, not of what is, but of what could be. Could Atlas be a relic of an ancient civilization? Could it carry seeds of life? Could it be one of many disguised messengers gliding through the galaxy? Neither world is complete without the other. Facts alone give us stability, but without imagination they are lifeless. Imagination alone gives us wonder, but without facts it drifts into fear or fantasy. Together they create the balance that makes us human. We measure with one hand and we dream with the other. We stand in two worlds and let them speak to each other. Atlas embodies this dialogue. Its chemistry is strange. 8 parts carbon dioxide for every 1 part water. Fact unusual, but not impossible. Imagination. Perhaps a code, a message written in molecules. Its orbit is hyperbolic. Fact. A natural trajectory flung from another star system. Imagination. Perhaps a chosen path, deliberate and watchful. Its silence is complete. Fact. No radio signals, no engineered structures. Imagination. Perhaps it is silent by design, cautious in a universe where noise can be dangerous. This interplay is not new. When Galileo pointed his telescope at Jupiter and saw its moons, he offered facts that reshaped the cosmos. But to those who heard him, it was also a story, a shift in humanity's place in the universe. When Einstein described space-time bending, the equations were precise. But the imagination they inspired, black holes, time travel, cosmic curvature, touched something beyond mathematics. Facts awaken imagination, and imagination propels us to seek new facts. Atlas is one more link in that chain. Think of art and myth. To the Greeks, comets were spears hurled by gods. To the Chinese, they were heavenly brooms sweeping away the old. Today, we do not believe those stories literally, but they still resonate. They remind us that imagination was our first telescope, our first spectrometer, our first attempt to make sense of the sky. Even now we tell new myths of alien probes, of cosmic seeds, of watchers in the dark forest. Atlas does not confirm these stories, but it inspires them. And in the quiet of the night, as we drift towards sleep, that inspiration is soothing, not frightening. There is comfort in knowing that what we imagine does not have to conflict with what we know. The two can live side by side, enriching one another. Science tells us Atlas is a comet. Imagination tells us it could be a messenger. Both are true in different ways, one in fact, the other in meaning. And meaning too is real. It shapes how we see ourselves, how we dream, how we find wonder in a universe that could otherwise feel cold and indifferent. Perhaps that is Atlas's greatest gift, not certainty, but balance. It arrives to remind us that knowledge and imagination are not rivals but companions. We do not have to choose between fact and wonder. We can hold both, just as we hold both the reality of gravity and the beauty of myth. Atlas is comet and possibility, object and symbol, silence and story. So tonight, as you breathe slowly and let your body relax, imagine yourself standing under the night sky. Above you, a faint streak of light drifts among the stars. You know with the clarity of science that it is a comet, but you also feel with the depth of imagination that it is something more, a story passing by, an invitation to dream. Both truths are yours to hold. Both are enough. And in that gentle balance between what we imagine and what we know, you may find the perfect space for rest. Every comet is more than an object. It is a fragment of history, a frozen record of conditions that existed long before our world was born. To study a comet is to open a page in the library of the cosmos, a library written not in words, but in molecules, in dust, in patterns of ice. And 3. Atlas, wandering in from interstellar space, is not just a page. It is a volume from an entirely different shelf, a record written under alien stars. It is in every sense part of a cosmic archive. When telescopes capture the light reflected from Atlas, what they really capture is information. Each spectral line is a clue, a fingerprint of the gases released from its surface. Carbon dioxide here, water there, perhaps traces of other molecules still waiting to be confirmed. These details are more than chemistry. They are records. They tell us how the material formed, what environment shaped it, and what processes it endured on its long journey through the dark. In this way, Atlas becomes not only a visitor, but a book we can only read in fragments, yet whose fragments expand the story of the universe. Think of the archives humanity keeps. In monasteries, scribes once copied texts by hand, preserving ideas through centuries of silence. In libraries, we store records of our past maps, chronicles letters that let us glimpse the minds of those who came before us. Atlas is no different. It is an archive, not of human thought, but of cosmic history. It carries within its ice the chemical conditions of a star system we may never see. To analyze it is to read a message from an ancient, unknown world. And yet, the archive is incomplete. Time has worn away its clarity. Radiation has bombarded it for eons, altering molecules, erasing delicate details. Just as old manuscripts fade or crumble, so too does Atlas show the scars of its long journey. What we recover is partial, fragmented. But even fragments matter. From them, we can reconstruct. From them, we can imagine. The gaps are not emptiness, they are invitations to wonder. This idea of comets as archives stretches back in science. We know that Earth itself likely received much of its water, and perhaps the seeds of life from impacts with comets billions of years ago. Those comets carried the archives of their own formation, and in delivering them, they became part of our archive too. If Atlas carries similar material, then its journey is part of a larger story, the story of how the cosmos recycles itself, scattering its library across worlds, allowing pages to be read far from where they were written. There is something deeply soothing in this vision, because archives are about memory, and memory is about continuity. Atlas reminds us that the universe remembers. It may not remember in words or images, but in chemistry, in structure, in the quiet endurance of ice across time. The gases escaping from its coma tonight may have been trapped there since before Earth existed. When you breathe in now, filling your lungs with air, consider that some molecules of oxygen around you were forged in stars that died long ago. In the same way, the molecules escaping Atlas are whispers from a time and place we will never see directly. Imagine walking into a vast, dim library. The shelves stretch endlessly. Some books are intact, others worn, their pages torn. You reach for one, and inside you find not sentences but patterns, lines, numbers, codes. You cannot read it easily, but you sense it carries meaning. That is what Atlas is, a book from the galactic library drifting into our reach for only a moment, letting us glimpse a chapter before it is shelved again in the dark. And perhaps more than archive, Atlas is also archivist. By drifting through interstellar space, it collects more than it gives. Dust from one star system, radiation from another, collisions with unseen particles, all become annotations in its pages. When we study it, we are not only reading the story of its birth, but the story of its journey. Every scar on its surface, every ratio of gas, every fracture in its core is a note added along the way. The archive is alive, constantly being written, even as we try to read. This perspective softens the loneliness of space. If the galaxy is filled with archives like Atlas, then we are not alone in our search for meaning. Everywhere, frozen messengers carry fragments of memory waiting for someone somewhere to notice. Most will never be seen. Most will wander forever unread. But the few that cross our skies remind us that the library exists, that the universe itself is an author, endlessly writing, endlessly scattering its books across the void. So tonight, let Atlas be your archive. Picture its frozen pages, opening under the warmth of the sun, releasing letters of light into our telescopes. Picture the patience of its journey, carrying memories older than our species, older than our world, older even than our Sunday. And picture yourself as reader, turning those pages slowly, knowing that you will never finish the book, but that the act of reading is enough. For in the end, that is what Atlas offers, not answers, but continuity. It tells us that the universe remembers even if imperfectly. It tells us that memory can endure across billions of years carried in fragments of ice. And it tells us that we too are part of this archive, adding our own pages, our own whispers, to the story of the cosmos. Close your eyes now and imagine drifting among those shelves of stars. Somewhere Atlas floats a book you once held briefly, a chapter you once read. Its story continues, even as it fades from view. And in its quiet persistence you may find comfort, the comfort of knowing that nothing is ever truly lost. There is a paradox in the cosmos. On one hand, it is built on foundations that feel eternal. Stars burn for billions of years. Galaxies swirl for eons. The laws of physics endure without change. On the other hand, everything within that framework is fragile. Stars die, worlds shatter, civilizations rise and fall. Even comets, though ancient, eventually disintegrate into dust. To watch 3I Atlas glide across the sky is to be reminded of both truths at once: stability on the largest scales, fragility on the smaller ones. Atlas itself is a symbol of this fragility. Its surface is volatile, easily broken by sunlight. Its gases escape with each pass near a star, never to return. Over millions of years, such losses erode it until nothing remains. For all its vast journey, Atlas is mortal too. It carries endurance but also impermanence. The same sun that makes it visible to us is also the sun that slowly unravels it. This comet is both survivor and victim, teacher and warning. Human history echoes this lesson. Civilizations have often seen themselves as permanent, only to crumble. The Sumerians built the first cities, but their rivers shifted and their power waned. Rome spread across continents, but even its walls fell. The Mayans carved great temples, but their jungles reclaimed them. Fragility is not failure. It is simply the rhythm of existence. Atlas, gliding silently, is like the ruins of those empires, a reminder that even what feels eternal is not immune to change. The great filter we considered earlier may be nothing more than this fragility written on cosmic scales. Civilizations may reach for the stars, only to be undone by their own instability, just as comets eventually dissolve into dust. The universe does not need to destroy. Fragility ensures that time alone is enough. That thought can be sobering, even frightening, but it can also be clarifying. It reminds us that what matters most is not permanence, but presence. To exist at all, however briefly, is already extraordinary. Consider your own life. Every breath is fragile, sustained by organs that tire by cells, that age by systems that can falter. And yet, life persists. It grows, it learns, it loves. Its fragility does not diminish its beauty, it deepens it. A flower that blooms only for a day is no less beautiful than a mountain. Its brevity is part of its meaning. So too with Atlas. Its journey may stretch across billions of years, but its moment in our skies is brief. That brevity makes it precious. In myths and philosophies, fragility has always carried lessons. The Japanese speak of mono, aware the gentle sadness of impermanence, the beauty found in fleeting things. The Greeks told of Icarus, whose wings melted in the sun, a warning of fragility even in ambition. The Buddhists teach that all things pass, and peace comes from accepting this truth. Atlas becomes part of this lineage of wisdom. Its fragility does not diminish its wonder. It is wonder. Even stars, the seeming pillars of permanence, are fragile when stretched across time. Our sun, steady now, will one day expand into a red giant consuming its inner planets. It too will fade, leaving only a white dwarf ember. Atlas's fate is gentler but similar, to be broken apart, scattered, forgotten. And yet, while it lives, it glows. While it passes, it teaches. While we see it, it matters. That is the lesson. Fragility is not the end of meaning. It is the source of it. Imagine civilizations far older than ours, watching their own visitors pass their own skies filled with comets. Perhaps they too saw fragility in those icy wanderers. Perhaps they too reflected on their own mortality, their own impermanence. If they are gone now, their lessons remain in the cosmos, written into relics like Atlas. And if we endure it, will be because we learn to embrace fragility, not to deny it. So tonight, let Atlas remind you of this. You are fragile, but not powerless. You are brief, but not meaningless. Your life, like a comet's glow, is finite. But within that finitude lies beauty. Every choice, every kindness, every dream matters more, because it will not last forever. Fragility is not weakness. It is urgency, a call to cherish what is here now before it fades. As your breathing slows and your thoughts soften, picture Atlas gliding away, shedding a little more of itself with each passing day. It does not resist its fragility. It simply continues carrying its story as far as it can. That is all any of us can do. To move forward even as we change, to shine even as we fade, to teach even as we vanish. Fragility is the thread that binds us to the cosmos. It links comets and stars, civilizations and individuals, dust and dreams. And in recognizing it, we find not despair but connection. We are not separate from the universe's fragility. We are part of it, woven into its delicate and fleeting fabric. So let fragility soothe you tonight. Let it remind you that you are part of something vast, and that even in your briefness, you belong to the same story as stars and comets. Atlas is fragile. You are fragile. And both are beautiful. 3. Atlas is not the first interstellar traveler we have seen, and it will not be the last. Before it came Oumuamua in 2017, elongated and puzzling. After that came 2I Borisov in 2019, glowing with the familiar chemistry of a comet, yet unmistakably foreign in origin. Now, Atlas continues the line. Each visitor is a reminder that our solar system is not isolated, it is a crossroads. Objects from other stars pass through from time to time unseen for most of history, but now with our new eyes we can notice them, and the noticing has only just begun, for soon our instruments will grow sharper. The Vera Rubin Observatory in Chile, with its wide-field telescope and nightly sky scans, will begin to watch the heavens with unprecedented clarity. Where we once caught a handful of visitors by luck, Rubin will catch dozens, perhaps hundreds across the decades to come. Each interstellar object will be another book in the library, another story added to the cosmic archive. Atlas is not an end, it is a beginning. Imagine what that future will look like. Night after night, computers will process vast rivers of data, identifying faint streaks moving against the stars. Most will be asteroids, comets, near-Earth rocks. But every so often one will stand out a trajectory, unbound eccentricity greater than one's speed too high for a native object. Another wanderer, another messenger from afar. And each time humanity will pause. Where did it come from? What secrets does it hold? What stories does it carry in its ice? The next visitors may be brighter. Some may pass closer visible even to the naked eye. Others may be fainter, so subtle that only the most sensitive instruments can catch them. Some may look ordinary. Others may astonish us with strange chemistry, unexpected shapes, or puzzling behavior. Each one will be a surprise, because that is what the cosmos gives us: mysteries wrapped in fragments of ice and dust drifting silently across eons. And perhaps one day, one of these visitors will come close enough for us to reach. A mission could be launched, a spacecraft intercepting the comet, landing upon its surface, sampling its nucleus. We would not just observe from afar, we would touch. We would hold in our hands the material of another star system, alien dust, carried across light years. The thought itself is dizzying to cradle in our instruments, the ancient memory of another sun, another world, perhaps even another chance at life. Atlas, then, is a reminder that we are at the dawn of this new age. For most of history, we had no way of knowing such visitors existed. Our ancestors saw comets and thought them omens, but they never imagined that some might come from other stars. Only now, with our telescopes and our mathematics, can we see the truth. The galaxy is not static, but dynamic, alive with travelers. We stand at the threshold of discovery, our eyes opening wider each year. The next visitors may answer questions Atlas left behind. They may confirm whether the strange chemistry we saw is common or rare. They may tell us more about how planetary systems form, about what kinds of materials wander the galaxy, about how often life's ingredients are scattered among the stars. Or they may deepen the mystery, presenting new anomalies, new puzzles, new invitations to wonder. Either way, they will teach us. Either way, we will be richer for noticing. There is something soothing in this anticipation. It tells us that Atlas is not the only chance we will have. The universe is generous with mysteries. More will come, and more after that, an endless procession of wanderers drifting through our skies. We need only to keep looking, to keep watching, to keep listening. And in that watching there is unity. Just as Atlas drew the eyes of the world together, so too will the next visitors. Each discovery will be a shared moment, a reminder that, despite our divisions, we are all citizens of the same sky. Each comet will be a gentle thread weaving us together in curiosity and awe. So tonight let yourself rest in the knowledge that the story is not over. Atlas will fade, but others are already on their way. They may be far, they may be faint, but they are coming. The next visitors await, carrying with them new pages of the cosmic archive, new lessons of fragility and endurance, new whispers to stir our imaginations. Close your eyes and picture the night sky filled with invisible travelers, each one a messenger crossing the void. Some we will miss, some we will catch, some will astonish us in ways we cannot yet imagine. The future is full of such encounters, quiet and profound. Atlas is only one voice in a chorus. The song continues. Every journey must end somewhere, and for us, the story of 3:20. I Atlas ends, not in collision, not in catastrophe, but in silence. Already, it is fading into the distance, its glow thinning, its presence less certain with each passing night. Soon it will vanish entirely from our view, returning to the deep corridors of interstellar space. We will not see it again. No one alive today will live to witness its return because it will not return. Its path is unbound. It is a wanderer, and its road stretches endlessly outward. There is something deeply gentle about this ending. Atlas did not harm us. It did not disrupt our world. Instead, it passed through quietly like a traveler who pauses only long enough to remind us that the road is larger than we imagined. Its silence is not emptiness, it is grace. A gift offered without words, a lesson delivered without noise. It showed us that the cosmos is immense, mysterious, and strange, but also steady, lawful, and calm. And then, having given us its gift, it moved on. The questions it raised remain with us. Was its chemistry natural or a sign of something more? Was its silence empty or deliberate? Was it only ice and dust? Or could it have been a relic, a messenger, a seed? We do not know. Perhaps we never will. But in some ways, not knowing is the point. Atlas was not here to give us answers. It was here to remind us of the beauty of questions, to remind us that wonder lives not only in what we discover, but in what we continue to imagine. Think of it as a lullaby from the cosmos, a song without words sung not to alarm, but to soothe. Atlas drifted past, and in its wake it left a melody of curiosity. It told us you are part of something vast. You are fragile, but not alone. You are brief, but you belong to a story that began before you and will continue after. That is not despair, it is comfort. To be part of a greater whole is to be cradled by the universe itself. In many traditions, travelers are greeted warmly when they arrive and blessed when they depart. Tonight we can do the same for Atlas. We can thank it for passing through, for showing us a glimpse of interstellar history, for stirring our imagination. And we can wish it well on its long road ahead, a road that will carry it past stars we will never see, perhaps into galaxies that will be born long after we are gone. Good night, cosmic wanderer. May your journey continue in peace, and perhaps one day another civilization under another sky will see it too. They may wonder, as we have wondered. They may study its chemistry, its path, its silence. They may invent their own stories about what it means. In that possibility lies a quiet kind of immortality. Atlas may not belong to us alone. It may be part of a chain of wonder, stretching across time and space, connecting minds that will never meet, but who share the same impulse to look up and ask. As you drift into sleep, think of yourself as part of that chain. You are here alive in this moment, gazing upward, as countless others have done before you, and countless others will do after. Your wonder is not yours alone. It is part of the inheritance of humanity, part of the story of life itself. Atlas came to remind you of that. And now it departs, leaving you with the gift of perspective, of humility, of peace. So close your eyes, breathe slowly, and let the image settle, a faint light receding into darkness, a messenger vanishing into silence. There is no need to hold on tightly. Let it go, the way all things eventually go. In its departure lies the gentle truth that nothing lasts forever, and that is what makes everything precious. Atlas will not return, but the wonder it stirred remains woven into your memory, carried into your dreams. Good night, 3-Eye Atlas. Good night, cosmic wanderer. Thank you for your passage, your silence, your questions. May your road stretch long, may your secrets endure. May your whisper continue across the stars. And good night to you, listener. May you rest, as quietly as Atlas drifts. May your dreams be as wide as the galaxy, and may you wake with the same gentle wonder you feel now.